everyone. Welcome to tonight's webinar, Tips and Takeaways for Well-Being, College, and Career Success. My name is Nicole Wolf, and I'm your host for this event in our My Journey Connection series. I'm so excited to have you here, and on behalf of everyone at ACT, thank you so much for joining us. Your well-being in all its forms is such an important topic and something we know is an essential part of your growth and success, both of which we're committed to helping you achieve. I am honored to be joined by our speaker tonight, and I'll let him introduce himself to you soon. But first, I want to cover some essentials to help you enhance your viewing experience. Throughout this presentation, you will have opportunities for reflection, as well as tips that you can use to help make your well-being a priority. Use the reflective questions on each slide as additional well-being tools in your toolbox and put them into practice with the various exercises that you'll learn here tonight. You're going to see several widgets, tools on your screen, very interactive, very cool to have all these boxes. You are in control of these. They're resizable, they're movable. So if you want to take the camera and shift it over, make the slides front and center, you are more than welcome to do so that you're getting the most out of your screen space. If you have any questions during the webinar, you're going to see a Q&A box on your screen as well. You can submit your questions through that tool at any time. We're going to do our best to answer them during the webinar, and we'll have various check-ins throughout the event in order to do so. A copy of the slides that you're seeing on screen and will see for the presentation are available in the resources tool as a PDF download, as well as some other handy items to accompany this presentation and for you to reference long after it's over. The webinar will be recorded and sent to the email address that you registered for this webinar with within about 1 to 2 weeks. For the best viewing experience, we encourage you to use a high-speed and stable internet connection and close any programs or browser sessions that you may have running in the background that could cause issues. This also includes asking maybe anyone in your household to pause that Twitch stream or the latest episode of the favorite series that they're binging. Webinars are very bandwidth intensive, so anything to conserve that bandwidth is going to help your viewing experience. If you find that everything, though, is still lagging or sound stops working, you're going to want to try a hard refresh, and that's Control F5 on your keyboard. And finally, if you find yourself struggling with anything, any of the tools, and you're unable to access the Q&A tool on the screen, you can check out the Help tool all the way at the bottom of your screen. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to our speaker, Joe Dorey. Joe, on behalf of myself and everyone at ACT and everyone in the audience here with us, thank you for joining us in furthering our mission of supporting our students and their champions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nicole, and thank you, ACT, for bringing me on today. Mental health is very, very important, as we all know, but it's quite invasive, both at the house and out in our community, in our colleges. And so I hope that everyone has their questions answered, and I hope that we'll go ahead and go through some most cutting-edge, scientific, research-based tips and advice. So without further ado, if you go ahead and check out this initial slide here, and I'd just like to mention that we will be covering some topics on psychological distress. So if you need to go ahead and step away for a bit to take care of yourself, self-soothing, please feel free to do that. And of course, there are resources available on your screen over there. So our agenda today has to do with introduction. You'll get a little bit story about my background, how I got to USC, how I ended up getting through some of my challenges, and then also what I ended up doing after my education. So as we're going to look at some factors to career success. So we'll be covering introduction, factors to well-being, factors to college success, and factors career success. So this next slide is kind of a recap from the bio that you've seen, and it's quite chronological. And you'll see, although I was born at UCLA Hospital and I was very social and outgoing in high school, I dealt with some psychological distress. What does that look like? In addition to being worried at night, sometimes even crying in school with my head down on the desk, these are common experiences. And what we find is that psychological distress and challenges end up showing up early on in the teens. And so this is what students are experiencing, and we'll see how invasive that is. So after high school, I attended a community college. There, I graduated in the top 69 among 2 million. There's a USC story about me online if you look it up. And so that gives a little more context. But nonetheless, I was awarded the Ed Walsh Service Award for service to the community and to the college. I pursued philosophical questions, and eventually my depression got really worse. I began to isolate myself, withdrew from courses, and then ended up doing poorly in school and college. So nonetheless, what I ended up doing was seeking help both on campus and outside of campus. Eventually, I graduated and took some graduate courses in psychology as an undergrad. So I got back on track. So I'm hoping to save you all some time, energy, and suffering so that you could also excel in college and quickly get in, maximize on your time there, and get out and succeed in your careers. So from there, I went ahead and wrote a book that encapsulates all the factors, the majority of factors of college success and career success, which you'll be seeing here, and additional ones. Then I created the research-backed scale, which we're going to hopefully have taken already. If not, you'll be able to access it as well. And this is what most research science has shown recently to be most effective in college success and career success. Finish the master's, started the foundation, and then consult and teach. You could see what's there, so I'll just get through this slide real quick. Okay, so now well-being and mental health. So these are slightly different, quite a bit different. And if you look this up on a search engine, you'll find that even key sources are really mixing these definitions. So what is well-being? So well-being consists of psychological, physical, and social health. This also includes positive emotions and positive assessment of one's overall life to include a sense of meaning and purpose. And what we'll find from this webinar is that we will be able to access that purpose and discover for yourself what is a life purpose. Again, key part of career and college success. Mental health, on the other hand, is consistent of a psychological state that is resilient to stress, such that you can learn and grow, foster cohesive relationships, and adapt so to succeed in life. Recently, the US Surgeon General stated that youth mental health is the defining public health crisis of our time. And this was just released. So ACT has been doing some wonderful research, and what they've found is that 86% of students experience moderate or high overall stress levels. And some of the research that we've done at my nonprofit, it's mirroring the exact same results. What we're finding that students are suffering both at the high school and college level. So this is why we have this webinar coming for you. So again, this is our research-based anonymous mental health, well-being, and social support scale. Again, it's anonymous so that students are comfortable to answer honestly. You could use the QR code here, but again, this was sent to you, so hopefully you've already taken it. If not, you'll get a chance to after the webinar. Okay, and please do give each other privacy. So if you're at home taking it, give one another some space to be able to answer honestly and get your feedback. Okay, again, this is a tool. It is not a replacement for professional help. And hopefully the scores you find will give you a little more insight as to how helpful that is to get some professional help. So I'd like you to take a look at your score for well-being. This is a research-backed scale. All of them that we use are research-backed. What does research-backed mean? These are scales that have been developed at Harvard, Stanford, UCLA, and other top schools. So, and they've been validated for several years, several decades for some of them. And then we recently also created one here at the nonprofit, The Good Student, and we'll go ahead and take a look at that later. So in addition to what your well-being score is, I like to see for you to consider what other factors of success are you interested in looking at? What can you strengthen? In addition, how can this tool be helpful to you today and in the future? Your results today will be probably different than, say, a year from now, 2 years from now, but the resources will always be helpful to you. These are resources that I've gathered and then filtered through my students to see what they thought and what was most helpful. I teach at UCLA in the summers, a social psychology class, and these wonderful students also provide feedback, and some of my college students will as well. So this is really informed by students and educators, researchers. So it's really strong. So let's see, Nicole, do you want us to take a few questions about the scale and what students have kind of gotten and their thoughts and feelings, concerns?
Absolutely. So I know Joe put the QR code up on the slide before, but remember those all little boxes and widgets on your screen? You're going to see one called resources, and there's a link to his tool within those resources if you didn't get a chance to be able to go through that process from your confirmation email before joining the webinar today. So for anyone that has participated and gone through and gotten their scores or found areas that they want to work on, you don't have to put your scores in the chat. But what are some factors maybe listed on your own feedback page or some things that you want to strengthen as you're thinking about your well-being and how it relates to college and career success? And how can this tool, do you think, be helpful to you today and in the future? So feel free to drop any of those responses in the Q&A tool, any factors listed that you want to help strengthen. I know for me, always social connection was the biggest thing. So especially like within high school and then making sure to make those friend groups in college. So that's always a big focus that I know that I want to work on, and of course managing stress. So we have some students that are putting in some things here. A lot of people talking about their strengths, and that's good to see. Let's see.
And thank you, Letitia, for your comment. Very kind of you. Thanks for your story, Joe. It was well needed. Appreciate that. So what I find that students, and I'll just jump in real quick. I know we have a lot of comments here, and then we have an agenda to get to. So if there's any that you see, Nicole, love to hear it based on what you find is most necessary. So what I find that students have shared in my classes is that it's very accurate, and you'll see in our website, it's very comprehensive. It's not just one factor that really dictates how well we do in school, college. It's a whole amalgam. It's a mix of factors, and that's what we'll see here. So that's one thing that students have shared. And so hopefully for those of you who've not had a chance, then you'll get a chance to see the feedback page, which is also an example that we provided to you. And the questionnaire is up 24/7. So even after the webinar, you're able to access it. So
looks like we're seeing a lot of things related to relationships, strengthen with friends and family, getting out more, making more friends, struggling under pressure when there's a lot of stress, procrastination, time management in college. That was definitely a big one for me, learning how to be on my own the first time. So this is really great feedback we're getting. So yeah, a lot of things that make a lot of sense.
Good. Yeah, and the well-being and other resources, and just because it's important to me, this is a topic that's a passion of my life, is students may not be experiencing, say, distress right now, and their well-being may be excellent, but there are resources there to help them speak with a friend. So if it's 1 in 4 students are experiencing psychological distress, then they're able to now know how to approach the situation. So it's there also for time's sake, timekeep. Okay, so I'm excited. All right, so health, relationships, and manage stress. So thank you so much, Nicole. So factors of well-being, there are many factors, but if you look at the World Health Organization and other resources online, you'll find that there are some key factors, some key criteria for well-being. And here are the key ones. So health, relationships, managing stress. All right. So areas to focus on, so physical, psychological, and social. These 3 key domains. Now, what you'll find here, and I say sleep more as we go down this list, sleep more because what I find for my students is that they're not sleeping enough. And what I find very interesting is that we start school, we start school at a time that students' bodies need to be sleeping during the time. So nonetheless, taking a cat nap, as they call it, taking a nap in the middle of the day, 20 minutes, an hour, those can help you out. It's also when we consolidate information. So when we sleep more, our mood is improved and our cognition is better, which means that we could study more efficiently, which means we have more time for fun and friends and family. So eating well, my father always used to say, eat well. And it's true. Of course, we've heard this, but if you're staying up at night, you don't want to eat carbs. I am a personal trainer as well, been certified. You don't want to eat carbs, you want to eat protein. That keeps you awake at night, right? Okay, so if you are going to do those late nighters, I recommend eating protein, and you'll find research on that. Being present, this is one of the key factors really to life success. It's one of the key principles that I live by and am trying to grow and learn and master. So being present, what does that mean? Being present means that when you're studying, you're studying. When you're presenting, you're presenting. When you're doing your math classwork, you're not focused on what's going on YouTube or some other thing like that. I love dog videos. God knows I love them, but there's a time and place for everything. So those are things you want to consider. Move your body. Now that we work more remote, and some of us are going and sitting in classes all day, getting up, taking a brief walk, again, bolsters, supports that cognition, helps us function and be more creative, more functional. Meditating. UCLA, they highlight how 20 minutes a day of meditation can improve brain functioning. So this is one thing that you might look at as well. I usually end up meditating about 10, 15 minutes every morning, depending. So managing stress, we're about to get to that, and I'll be showing you some physiological sighing, which has been shown by Stanford to be the most effective breathing technique. So I'll be going through that as a demonstration. And then furthermore, you want to gain a sense of mastering topics and skills. So if you need to learn how to do data science or data analysis, you could learn and master Python for that. Okay, work toward your life purpose daily, making an effort. There's a Buddhist saying that says, little by little, a person becomes good as a pot is filled by drops of water. And there are other sayings. And so another one is water pools, and this is from a different culture and area in the world. Water pools and eventually becomes an ocean. So the point is that whatever your goals are, and you'll find that with the college and career success, is that we make incremental steps forward. And eventually that does add up, just like writing a book, just like sitting and creating a survey that's science-based. That takes time, but eventually now you're kind of reaping the benefits of my work. And so I'm glad that you have that. I still remember sitting in the library working on it several weeks on end. So furthermore, ways to bolster these areas of physical, psychological, and social, contribute to society in ways that are meaningful to you, cultivate your relationships, and focus when you're with others. When I eat, I put my phone down. And friends of mine know this about me, and I put it on silent. And it's very intentional. I don't know if you go to Starbucks and you're looking at your phone, trying to check out, it's not the best way to go about life, and especially, and I don't recommend doing that. My brother once called me, God bless him. He called me, and I actually stood there for a good 20, 30, 40 minutes, literally waiting for us to finish on the phone. And I love him. His name's Jonah, and I love him. And I spoke with him, and then went and cashed out, and I shared with them, sorry, I was standing there and said, no, we really appreciate it. Some people just come here and don't acknowledge us. And what we'll find is that we do need to be mindful with the people that we're about when we're around them. We need to be kind. We want to be present. We want to acknowledge them. Okay. So these are some things I recommend doing. Sorry to belabor it, but again, this is so very crucial. And this is a precise example. Family, friends, people, acquaintances, we don't even know. It's really, truly important that we stop and acknowledge them. So focus when we're focused with others, good. So what is one topic you can focus on? Please write it down. So as you go through this now and in the future, go ahead, make a note of which one of these you'd like to address first, okay? Thank you for bearing me with that one. It's really important to me to acknowledge everyone. All right, so, and this leads to our next topic, which is relationships. Harvard has done the longest study on happiness. And what they find is that having quality relationships are the key to happiness, okay? When we think about our relationships and finances and career and all these factors, when we analyze these and our prestige of a job, status, one person wants to be a doctor, another person wants to be, say, an attorney, whatever it is, or they want to be a nurse practitioner, the end of day, what comes down to is the fact that you have quality relationships. And I believe that's in everyone's reach. Not everyone wants to be one career or another, but everyone can bolster and create meaningful relationships. So UIC, University of Illinois, Chicago, also did a study. They found that strong social connections are associated with high scores of personal happiness. Yes, associated. It's not correlation, right? Okay, I'm a psych instructor, so this is something I'll have to share, but it's an association. So it means that bolsters, support, and I keep saying bolster, strengthen your social connections. It's very key, and it must be done intentionally. So self-disclosure, I recommend doing it conscientiously, with people you trust. But self-disclosure is the process of sharing feelings and personal challenges. So I will go ahead and share, yes, not just what was difficult, but also say, something perhaps about my past that I know only to disclose it to certain people. So let's say a hardship that I had, or say some challenges that I had in school. Those are things that I could share with others. And again, with trustworthy people. That's what I strongly recommend, people that you can truly trust. So conflicts, disagreements, they do happen. And I think the hardest part is finding how these can become opportunities of growth. I'm just an honest person. It is difficult in the moment. And so I find that when we step back and we're able to analyze and assess the situation, we could go ahead and then find opportunities for growth. And often it has to do with curiosity. That's just a tidbit for you there, something that I've learned and researched and learned from the different books that I've been trying to go through. And Jeff Bezos is known to really read a lot of books, and Warren Buffett and other people. And so I highly recommend doing that. And that's part of my process. So I have two little tips here. And for the sake of time, I'm going to jump to the bottom one, which is the 3 A's. And now I tell my students, and I share with you now, there are 3 A's. It's appreciate, admire, and applaud. So I like you to think about one person in your life right now, today. Pick one person, first person that comes up. Now think about, for a moment, what do you appreciate about them? What is it that you really appreciate about them? Is it because they're coming home on time and they're communicative about what time they're coming home? Is it because they're available to you to study with you? What do you admire about this person, and what do you applaud them for? I recommend you go ahead and you reach out to that one person today. So right now it might be my mother. And so I would go ahead and send her, and I'd tell her that I admire her for all the hard work that she put in. When they first came to this country, my mother was working any and every kind of job just to help us going, and I love her. So these are things that I recommend you doing. And of course, Mother's Day is coming this weekend, so I love you, Mom. All right, so I'm going to share something very interesting with you, and you'll find that I'm a little bit informal and also a little bit more sharing and conservative but open than most of my fellow instructors. And so you'll see what I mean in just a bit. So managing stress. So you want to prioritize your goals. Again, well-being being number one. That just makes everything else more efficient, more functional. Saying no to opportunities. You're going to get opportunities left and right, especially if you're doing things well. Okay, if you're caring, you're kind, you're diligent. People will be reaching out to you like ACD did, which I'm grateful for, and they will acknowledge those things and invite you. You have to learn which ones to say no to. I can't say yes to every single opportunity that comes. Say, if it's to collaborate with one research lab, we were looking at long COVID, and another one I can't do anymore. So you have to learn to say no. You can't be the honors president, the secretary of another club, and et cetera, which is something we'll get into about preparing for college and career. Now, here's the factor that I really love, and you might think it's wild. So track your time. I have tracked my time. Get this, okay? I'm recommending you track every minute of your time for a whole week. I've tracked my time, and if this was my class, I'd ask you to guess, okay? 3 months. I've gauged every single minute of my life for 3 months. And here's what I find. I need to force myself to have fun. That's the end of the game. I know how much I need to sleep to be functional. I know how much hours I need of exercise. So if you could gauge how much time you have, then you could start playing with it. You could see I only am able to do 40 hours a week of work, and I don't recommend 60, 70 hours of people of work. I think we're very strongly driven, especially students. And I think recognizing that strong drive to succeed at school, career, get all the internships, do all the things you can to get into the school you want, there needs to be prioritizing. And prioritizing means what we just discovered, talking about mental health, well-being, talking about social relationships. So I encourage you to track your time and see how much sleep you're getting. And you might end up identifying, just like the other slide, okay, I need more fun time. So I actually force myself to sit down and watch a Netflix video. I know force is something, but spending time with friends, I can't get enough of that. And that's a very easy go-to. So finally, and I see we're getting close with time. So Stanford University, there's a breathing technique. And so I'll share it with you now. If you do it 5 minutes a day, it's shown, statistically, research-wise, it's shown that it increases positive mood and reduces stress and anxiety. So when you're sitting there, you don't have to step away, close your eyes, and do all those things. These are things that you could do right now in the moment. So this is what a cyclic or physiological sighing looks like. You take a breath in, but not all the way, halfway, then take a second breath. So then exhale. So this is what it looks like. Don't do it while you're driving or by some water, but do that and it should reduce your stress. All right. So I'll go with there. Think about the times that you could use it when you're most stressful. Test taking, wherever you are. All right. So this is a summary. Okay. Health, address all the key areas, intentionally build your relationships, and managing stress using that sighing technique. So I encourage you to identify which one of these are most important to you, most crucial for you to address. You can't address every single one of them. And I don't recommend you addressing every single one of them today, now. I recommend you identifying which is most important and then doing that. So Nicole, are we good to keep going, or do you want to take a question or two? If you like it.
Yeah, we can take a quick pause here. I know we have the question on the screen. Which one of these areas are most important for you to address first? So if you want to put those in the Q&A chat, I can read off some of those. But there's actually a great question that just came in. Someone said, I find myself continuously doing something or having the need to do something constantly, so always on the go. How do you suggest to find a way to put your mind at rest without stressing it over, worrying that you're not getting something else done?
Totally. So the quick answer, excellent. Thank you for that. So the quick answer is kind of schedule times for all those activities and then put it on a calendar. This is what I do. Put it on your calendar agenda. And then when you're doing that activity, let it go. Focus on that activity. When your brain says, oh, what about test B, test C, test, etc., you go, I already have that scheduled. And if you need to pull it up and have it next, you go, yes, I have it scheduled. So then that's the best way I would go about it. I can't turn off the light at night unless if I know that I've gotten things squared away myself. So I strongly relate that. Yeah. So,
great. I'll let you forge forward, Joe.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Nicole. Great question. So for the sake of time, so factors of college success. Now there's several factors. You'll find them in the handout, which is the sections on psychological factors of college success, again, research-based. And so the three ones that we were able to go ahead and fit into this slide, into this presentation, is first year attribution, which we'll get into, sense of belonging, and stereotype threat, okay? And so what are all these? Let's go ahead and jump in. 6:30. Okay, so usually students, when they start college, they'll see a dip. Their grades will go down a tad. And why is that? So what we find is that when we go to a new environment, there are a lot of adaptations we need to make. So whether if it's a sleeping schedule, again, I keep referencing sleeping, whether if it's because our calendar, our schedule of classes are different than what they're like in high school because of the changes in our social environment, right? New friends. These are factors that end up coming in and end up causing us not be able to perform academically as well as we could be. Students sometimes interpret that as I don't belong at college or I cannot do college work. And so they end up not persisting. Their self-efficacy, okay, and their self-worth ends up suffering, okay? There's a difference between the two. You can look them up. But what we find though is that students who are aware of this dip in grade, they understand that and they're able to persist. Now, I even take a more practical approach. What I actually do is I will pull up the syllabus for a class way before even the class starts if I can. If I have to email the instructor, I'm going to email the instructor. There's no stopping you. Okay, so email the instructor. If you can find it online, great. Go through it, see what textbook you're using, and then read it. Use the tutoring center. I was a tutor, statistics here at my community college. Do the same thing. Go to a tutoring lab, first week of class, make sure you know the topic. These are things you want to do. So when you think about going to college and factors of college success, is maximizing, using the resources that are available to you. So I will skip these questions at the bottom so that you all are able to see the rest of these slides, okay? But go through them. You have a PowerPoint PDF downloadable version. So please go ahead and go through that on your own as well. Okay, so sense of belonging. This has been great work done by Cohen and Walton over at Stanford, of course. And so what we find is that when people have a strong sense of belonging, so they feel that this is a place for me, this is a place that I can feel valued, this is a place that I can contribute. When this happens, well-being increases, adjustment, academic performance, and degree completion are more within your grasp. So these are some benefits. This is very important for first year, first generation college students, people of color, women in STEM, okay? And then also athletes and international students, international students coming from another country. Then so forth. I won't go into the rest of each challenge for these populations. So nonetheless, these are very important, but also for everyone. So connecting with organizations in your school and your community is a great way to go about doing this. Connecting with a role model with a similar background, okay, whether if it's geographic or any other factor. And so what we find, and so one of my mentors at USC, William Wagner, okay, cool. Thank you. All right. Okay, so William Wagner ended up being a great mentor of mine, and I picked his brain, and I really resonated with him. And so some of the benefits of this is better performance in school, you dream bigger for your future. He had a great significant impact on that, and considering more fulfilling careers. Okay. All right, so negative stereotypes is another psychological factor. And so what we're looking at a negative stereotypes. There are stereotypes, and I'm sorry if I'm going a little bit quick. I really want to get to all these slides. I've jam-packed them. So you can put it on slow down if you end up getting the video. But nonetheless, a negative stereotype is that there are stereotypes, unfortunately, there are stereotypes of various groups. And if it's a negative stereotype, what we find is that people, and again, Stanford research, people become cognizant of that, apprehensive of confirming that negative stereotype of a membership that they're a part of, whatever the membership factor quality it may be. And then as a result, they end up doing poor in their classes or in their work. In my courses, I'll give a description of what it's like males and females taking a math test. And what you find is that there are no differences across the genders. There are other genders, and those are tests and studies we'll need to do. So I also want to be cognizant of that. But nonetheless, so becoming aware of these stereotypes, and there are ways of addressing these stereotypes. So some ways that you could combat it is by focusing on research data and trends that validate your community's contribution and impact. There are different examples. I'll go through one or two of them here. So diversity in STEM helps to fuel economic growth and secure our nation's status as a driving force in innovation. And then companies in the top quartile of executive team gender diversity were 25% more likely to have above average profitability. Okay, so it impacts everyone by having greater diversity. So keeping a journal focused on your accomplishments and goals can be a great way to remember your substantial knowledge, skills, and abilities. Keep track of it. And anytime your mind goes to a negative stereotype, or even if it's not a negative stereotype, if it's just self-talk, what you could do is, well, hold on a sec. I'm hearing this is what I'm thinking, but let me pull up my journal here that shows that I actually have succeeded and done these things. Remind yourself of who you are and your past accomplishments. Okay, so what are some strategies that you have used to combat negative stereotypes and just poor internal dialogue? These are some things to consider. Okay, let's see, 633. All right, so here are key takeaways. First year attribution, sense of belonging, stereotype threat. Other factors that you'll find are in the handout, the psychological factors to college success. Mindset and grit are other factors. Grit is perseverance and passion. And what they find in research, Angela Duckworth, colleague of mine, she's over at UPenn right now. And what she finds is that from employees to students across different fields, across different industries, what they find is that those who are successful, not social intelligence, although very important, not IQ, none of these factors. But what ends up being most important is grit, which is perseverance and passion. And as we soon will find our purpose in life, okay, that will help us to have that passion, okay, and perseverance. So that is more important than any other factor. It might be surprising to some people. It was a little bit, informative to me, quite a bit actually. Okay, so Nicole, do you want to jump on to help me find any questions that might want to be answered, please? Thank you.
Yeah, Absolutely. We had a question come in early on, but it perfectly aligns with kind of this set of factors for college success takeaways that you've presented. Um, Someone asked, was it hard to make friends in college? You know, what are some ways to go out and make those connections, especially in a new and maybe what could be a scary environment?
Absolutely. Good. So you're going to make a lot of friends, and you're asking how. What is this person? So you're asking, what is it like to make friends? It's going to actually take a lot of initiative taking. Um, it's very easy to kind of fall in the background and not make friends. So sitting by people in class, that's one way to make friends. Joining a club, and you'll see that in our later slides. So if you're a math student, then you might join the math club and you'll make friends there. Another thing so these are things that you must take it with. But what happens is that when you do go to university, you find that people have this broad spectrum. This is research, broad spectrum of friends. But then over time, term two, term three, and so forth, people start pulling back and really be able to identify this person's more, in line with my views and values and enjoy spending time with them. So it has to be initiative. If I go self-initiated, but if I go off the top of my head right now that I could say, I've mentioned class, I've mentioned like clubs on campus, and then also things outside of campus. So say you're in the rowing team, or let's say you're involved in environmental challenges, another huge challenge for us as humans. This is going to be huge and is a huge challenge for us, environment. So that might be something that you want to get involved in off campus. So those are cool ways to make friends. But yeah, it's scary, but it pays off.
And one more, what's your best tip to create a genuine connection with people?
Good. Showing genuine interest. And I think that we often get too self-absorbed. I mean, I think we all are. I don't know too many people that are not self-absorbed. We're actually very self-conscious when we meet people. And I find that if we could actually just drop that, which is hard, but it's feasible. If we could drop that self-absorbed kind of critic, we probably could end up making a lot more friends. And when you take an interest in people, they also take an interest in you. And if you are at a place, if you want to talk about psychology, if you stand by a window, that makes you more approachable by people. So you might look into some psychological principles like that, but nonetheless.
Thank you, Joe. We'll head on into factors of career success, and maybe we'll get back to some of these questions at the end of the webinar.
Cool. I love questions. Great. Okay. All right. Thank you, Nicole. You're great. Okay, so I think we're good. Okay, timelines, we're good. Okay, so, so factors of career success, proficiencies for future careers, discovering your purpose and maximizing your time in school. What I find, and this is research done by UCLA and others, what we find is that we take a first year survey, and it's administered across the United States. And what we do, and I have an issue with it, and I'm sorry, UCLA, I teach there, but I'm also, I believe in helping students. And UCLA said it for too many times now, but this university tends to gather data, and it's great. It's wonderful. They gather data on student well-being. They gather opinions about attitudes about politics and all these different topics, but they don't give any information back to students. That's why this survey has been so important to me. But nonetheless, one thing that they found is that about 85% of students identify and say that getting a job after college is very important to them. So in other words, students attend college so that they can find a career. If it's not very important, then it's really important. Perhaps you're more intellectually inclined and you're more pragmatic and you're going to look into the classics and want to read Greek and all, and which is fine and dandy. But the point is that a lot of students want to prepare for a career. And the problem is that they're only about 44% prepared for the workforce. The question is, what the heck are we doing wrong, right? I mean, really, and pardon for the language, but this is how I teach. So what are we doing wrong? And I think that the solution is having students really take charge of their own education. That's why you see in my book, How to Take Control of Your College Years. we can't wait. You can't wait for others to tell you how to do school. Although you're coming here, which is your way of getting more information, you can't wait for others to tell you what to do. You have to maximize on your time in college, and that's what we'll get to. So let's see. Okay, so average graduate, yeah, okay. So National Association of Colleges and Employers. These are the top skills, and they've slightly changed since last time I looked at them. This is just this year. And so the top ones: career and self-development, which you're doing here; communication, so super key in various different ways; okay, equity and inclusion; leadership; professionalism; teamwork; and technology. Okay, these will fiddle about and change, and order will vary, and based on your industry, these will also vary. I mean, if you're tech savvy and you're mostly working with data, then maybe some skills are not as important as others, but all these are. And so I recommend focusing on communication. When I write an email or something like that, I ask myself 3 questions. I don't remember where I came across. It's been probably 20 years since I came across this. Maybe it was a colleague or a friend, but they ask 3 questions, okay? You want to ask, what do I want the reader to know? So imagine you're writing an email. What do I want them to know, okay? What do I want them to feel? And what do I want them to do? If you could answer all those questions and the message that you send, anything that you're putting together, speaking, etc., then you're a lot more likely to be successful. In every workplace that I've gone to, seen, this is one of the key factors in addition to teamwork, which is very important. Okay, so excellent. So a lot of people, when I ask them, what is your purpose? What's your life purpose? I mean, goes across the board for adults. And it's interesting, for one of my interviews some time ago, a long time ago, I think it was about 10 years ago, when I did an interview, they asked me some questions and I was able to just totally tell them. It was, right around then. I was able to totally tell them my life purpose. I mean, and they were very surprised and very impressed. Now, what you'll find is that many people don't know their life purpose, and it's something that has to be kind of pursued and uncovered, being discovered. So psychologist William Damon states that purpose is a stable and generalized intention to accomplish something that is at the same time meaningful to the self and consequential for the world beyond the self. Okay, so this impacts others. It's not just impacting us and that we enjoy something that we do, like teaching at UCLA for the summer or psychology, whatever. But it's like, how is that impacting students? How is that impacting the world around me? So there are several benefits, and we'll get into an activity that you'll be able to do on your own time that will help you identify your purpose, okay, get you on that route too. So benefits of having a life purpose includes increased well-being, improved relationships. These are all research-based, okay? I've spent too many years doing this research. This is all research-based. There are references for every single one of these. Increased resilience. You need resilience to succeed in life. You have to keep getting back up, Excel in college and career, healthier lives and less risk of disease, and a greater sense of meaning and fulfillment in life. This is so key and important. Part of the Harvard study as well. So some of the ways to do that is looking at your values, interests, and personality. That's something you get through the various resources you have available that ACT has helped make available. And so what I recommend you do is write down 3 people who you admire and desire to be like. So, and answer these questions about them. Okay, and I could think of a few. I actually have one back there on my door there that I often admire and look at. So write down these 3 names and then ask yourself, what are they passionate about and how are they giving back to society? And then look at the commonalities across them. And if you could do anything, I think this would be a really fun, cool activity to do, just to identify what could be and what looks like a purpose for you. So that's a key factor, okay? So identify your purpose and it will evolve and change over time. Okay? All right. So maximizing on your time now and while in college. So preparing for a career while you're in high school and beyond. So getting involved in activities relevant to your interests and career aspirations. So what we're talking about here is really quickly identifying what you'd like to pursue. And I'll give a precise example here. Okay. A student came to me and shared about how they were very interested in marine biology. Fantastic. I'm not interested in marine biology. Very interesting, but I don't want to spend the majority of my time looking at that. I'd rather look at psychology and student well-being. But you want to study marine biology? Awesome. I'm totally for it. Tell me how I could help you. They did an internship in the summer, some research assistantship, whatever. They went, they did some marine biology, they studied with the marine biologists. What do they find? I don't want to do marine biology. Big discovery, huge discovery. And the ways that we do that are some of the options listed here. What does that do for the student? What does that mean for you? That means that if you discover what you're interested in earlier, then that means you explore more topics that might interest you and might be a career for the future. I once did a internship with a financial company, and I knew day number one, and I had to finish it, of course, the internship. I knew day number one, it's not for me. Okay. So when we have these experiences early on, we save time, we save value of money. Okay. If you go to USC or some other school, tuition's, really high up there. And then also we find that we could find more fulfillment in life. What are other ways to do this? Clubs, work experiences. I have volunteers for my nonprofit. You can get involved in volunteer work. I've done that. I've worked for my mentor's nonprofit. There are different ways. And also Coursera. Okay. I'm just going to throw this tab in of tips and takeaways. Coursera, other online courses is a great way to explore a career, explore a topic rather, instead of having to jump into a whole semester. And I highly recommend this. Okay. So if you're interested in a topic, look at it on Coursera. If it's really worth it, then use your credits, your elective courses wisely and pursue that. Okay. So that would be my recommendation to you. And so what are some possible extracurricular activities related to professional development? I'd also like to take some time to share some things that I always share with my students during the summers especially. It's when you're doing these activities, internships, research positions, volunteer work, what you want to look at is not quantity, but quality. Imagine sitting in the admissions table and you got application come through and you're looking at their CV or resume, okay? And this is so important. You're looking at their CV or their resume and they go, honors president, society this, and all these positions. I mean, I had a resume come in for a position here, the internship for my students, and I looked at the work that they're doing, and then I wrote a reply back. I said, how are you getting all these things accomplished? There's a lot of time that goes into these activities. So what you want to be able to do is, I worked at these 5 or 4 or 2 different internships and positions, and this is what I gained, this is what I learned, and this is what I contributed. Admission teams, they know that you have the same amount of time that I or they have, and you can only do so much. So are you having much depth in the courses that you're taking, or rather in the internships that you're doing in research positions? Students, so I could go on with this forever, but students, I think it is crucial that we kind of identify what's important to us, and then from there, be very strategic with how we use our time, saying no to more opportunities so that we could focus in on those that are most relevant to our career and our success, our college success. So that would be my advice to you, and you could get started doing that now. I have a junior high schooler here who just brought our nonprofits work to their high school, and she's just a junior. Amazing, phenomenal, very good, smart effort making student. And this is one way that now she's able to put down the process, the challenges, the successes, and also now publishing. So there's a lot of benefits of going deep as opposed to just being spread out across. And again, I'm just sharing some tips and takeaways for you. Okay, it's not on the slide, but it's things that I see show up, and I'd like you to avoid making some of these, less prudent choices. Okay. So key takeaways. So future career proficiencies, enhance your communication skills, discover your purpose, identify those that you admire in their passions and contribution to society. So maximizing on your time, get started now and while you're in college. So always prepare, do it now, not later, do it now, do it today. Okay, so which one of these are most important to you to address first? So this is a recap, okay? Well-being, college, and then career. So these are the 3 topics. And then within them, there are those 3 components. Again, I had to dwindle the college success one down to just 3. There are many. So what I recommend you do is go through them and map out the next 9 weeks, okay? So you want to see which ones are most important to you right now. If you're a junior, if you're a sophomore in high school, if you're a senior, various ones will be more important to you. If you work too hard, then maybe well-being, noticing that you need to get more fun or more rest. Some of the work that students I've seen do, it's not sustainable. My own life work, I've learned to become more sustainable. I can't work that many hours. If you're Elon Musk, maybe, but so anyway, thank you. So career development, so key proficiencies, et cetera, we just, so I highly recommend making a 9-week plan focusing on these, each one of these. So it's 3 topics, 3 areas, and then within each, there are 3 subtopics, and then create a 9-week plan. Work on developing. So pick a topic, communication, and work on that for 7 days. Check in on the weekend. That's what I do. I spend my Saturdays checking in, okay? And then if you like, go ahead, create kind of a summary of what you've gone through, what you've created, some of the questions you have, some of your thoughts, and then go ahead and reach out to me. This is, of course, 9 weeks from now. But in 9 weeks from now, the first 100 students, what I'll be doing is I'll have a free 50-minute long consultation for you. So what I do is I help students kind of narrow down on their topics, and from there excel in all areas of their lives, them and their family. So I recommend doing this. Hopefully it motivates you to get stuff done. If you can't, or if you're not able to get in, come out to the classes and connect with ACT for the resources that they have available as well. So I think we're pretty good, Nicole. Yeah, Q&A. Thank you.
Joe, thank you so much. I know there was a lot of information to take in, but we have some great questions here. And just want to let everyone know, while we are now actively in the Q&A section, we're going to go back to some ones that were maybe previously asked. Feel free to keep putting your questions in that Q&A tool, and we will try to answer as many of them as we possibly can. So, Joe, let's get started.
Yeah, let's do it.
These are going to cover, obviously, everything you've gone through in your webinar already. So from previous sections or the most recent one. So let's start with, someone says that they find themselves procrastinating due to their anxiety. I can definitely relate with something like that. What are some tips? What can that person do to help that?
Right. Break down the topics and give yourself just enough time to get it done for each component. Okay. So if you're writing an essay, just get down the references. Don't worry about anything else, and give yourself 20 minutes to get the references down, and have focused time. Like I was saying earlier, you knock it out little by little, knock it out. You just get each piece, and eventually you'll find that your momentum has gone more and more. And so instead of thinking long-term wise, just think today, all I'm focused on is doing X. I'm putting together the structure of the paper, work on it piece by piece, and being present is one of those benefits. So that's how I would do it. Nice, quick, simple answer. Yeah. Oh, and anxiety. Yeah, anxiety. Do the breathing technique. Yes, breathing technique. So this Stanford physiological breathing. So it's so that I do it when I'm driving. I do it when I'm presenting. I do it in different times of the day. Do that and do it 5 minutes, and you'll actually really see that physiological change in you. And have fun. Reward yourself. And I recommend a book called Habits. And I'll give you a chance to take a look at it. I won't say more, but yeah. So habits, break it down every day. I'm sorry. I love this stuff. So every day every day I wake up and I have my routine, right? 20 minutes of meditation, 5 minutes of breathing, exercising. And then after that, I'll go to my day. But I have a specific time. And another great book is How to Write a Lot. And I have a specific set of time from say 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. where all I do is I just write. I write whatever, if it's a coursework, if it's a project, and that's all I do. I don't let anything else disturb me. And so that's another way. Set the same time for each day, and then just like a working out session, and it becomes automatic habits. So that's another two things, yeah.
Let's see, another one we have, how can I balance making relationships and focusing on priorities like school, health? So those kind of like big 3 factors we talked about at the beginning. Sometimes it's a struggle to find that balance with, kind of heavy things on each side of the scale. So how would you help manage those priorities and help find that balance?
Yeah, good. Well, first of all, excellent on trying to focusing on relationships. It will make or break you really in both positive and negative ways. So that's excellent. So you do want to choose your friends and people you're around very, very cautiously. The way to prioritize it, one is double dipping. That's something I'll do. which double dipping is not like guacamole and chips or something, but it's like double dipping. So like if you're going to go exercise and you know a friend that's also engaged in exercising or they like to, go ahead and go together with them. Okay. And I know we're talking about college classes, say, and how do you prioritize all those things? Create that week-long schedule of yours. See how you're spending your time. And then from there, set enough time to accomplish each of those tasks. So if you have that visually, especially for some of us, I think many of us, if we know that we're going to get to it, like my schedule, I know that I'm going to get to it, so I can let it go. If you write it down, your brain gets more space to focus on the task at hand. So those are ways. So identify your tasks, your goals, set them down, set specific times, and then go ahead and kind of combine tasks as much as possible. Those would be some ways. But you have to prioritize. It has to be conscientiously done. And check in every single weekend. People fail to check in. At night, I'm sorry, Nicole, I know we got limited time, but at night, each night, I actually, and this is a, private, it's my lifestyle. And what I do is I ask myself a couple questions. I say, Joe, how have I invested in my relationships? How have I invested in my future career? How have I taken care of my health, right? Like what have I, done? And have I ate healthy? Have I exercised? Am I taking care of myself? And as I go through that, then I could see, yes, I'm on track or not. So keeping track actually would help. It's just the way that you have to do it. You have to keep track, monitor that stuff. Yeah, monitor.
What's your best advice kind of around student well-being? And I think this question comes from, I think students may be feeling this about other students, but counselors want to support, and parents, any champion that's having the care of their students at front of mind. What's your best advice for students when they feel like maybe they're falling behind, whether it's, their peers, their schoolwork? What's some advice to help students cope in that space?
Right. So tap into all the resources that you have. That can include parents. Do talk to your parents. Greet them when they come in the house. Be conscientious. Make eye contact. Smile. But rely on your social network that you currently have. And then they have these great resources on campus. So like we have free, counseling sessions for students. So using those resources, tapping into those, that would be the best way to kind of really bolster, to support that well-being. And again, you have to do it directly. So, and if it's, anyway, concise, go with concise.
You're good.
Go on forever.
You're good, Joe.
All right.
What are some tips you have for improving communication skills?
Yeah. Okay. So practice, and Thich Nhat Hanh, he's a Tibetan Buddhist monk. And he talks about the mantras, and it's, I'm here, which is, again, being present. I am with you, and I see that you're suffering. I suffer too. And I want you to know that this is a special moment and that I see you. And so reading these books and putting them into practice, there's a brain, a female brain and male brain, and they need to add other ones, but Resendine wrote these. And if you look at the cover of the books, it's really interesting. But it talks about being present and actually listening. And there are, many other views, but these are some biological, anatomical and physiological differences. And again, like I've said before, there needs to be more books on genders and other disparate qualities. But nonetheless, what we need to do is actually listen and hear what the person's saying, and identifying the different communication styles that people have. If you have a supervisor, some of the times they're just straight to the point, just be done with it. Then you have more like communicators where they're like, like eccentric or, extroverted, and they want to have a dialogue. I'd love to share stories more and cultural differences and why it's so important, but identifying people's communication patterns is another way too. So read books, actually practice them, some of the ones I've mentioned and other ones, and love Thich Nhat Hanh, amazing person, passed away recently. And practice them, and those things. So just practice. If anything else, practice. Adam Grant, he's that Wharton School of Business guy. The first time he gave a talk, he was speechless, and then now he's giving talks for Qualtrics and TED Talks. And so practice. That guy was totally anyway. Okay, next topic.
Early in the presentation, you talked about choosing what opportunities to take, what to prioritize, what to say no to. How do you go about not especially stressing over which one to choose? And how do you also keep yourself from feeling guilty from saying no?
Okay. So, real quick then with time. So, feeling guilty, just be okay with there being some guilt. You're not going to get rid of it. Eventually, you'll have less of that feeling, but just be comfortable with it. Learn to be comfortable with it. Okay. It takes time. Use the breathing technique, but learning which ones to say yes and no to entails first identifying what is your purpose, what are your interests, what is the direction that you're going in life, and what is your context, right? So to be more specific about context is if you're a junior. So when you're a junior, what do you focus on compared to when you're a senior? Like you're about to start university as a senior, okay, you're a senior high school student. So then where should your attention be? If you're a junior and you're going to be in your high school longer, so maybe you should invest on clubs that you will be able to sustain for the next 2 years. So maybe being honors president is a good idea, your first year of university, as opposed to maybe your last year. So those are context based and interest. If you find your purpose, you'll solve a lot more of these really easy peasy. And great question. Love it. Thank you for being interested in these things, for trying to invest in your life and your future and your interests. These are so important. Yeah.
There's been a lot of great. Okay. No, you're good, Joe. I just wanted to say there's been a lot of great engagement in the Q&A and chat. And I hate that we can't get to every single one, but I will choose one last question, kind of as a go forth question, I guess. What do you tell yourself? What's your biggest motivator as you're considering all of these things and managing stress and maximizing your time? What do you tell yourself to make sure that you are being the best champion for yourself?
Wow. Brilliant question. I hope that person reaches out to me. That'd be great. I love to coach them, talk to them. Every single day, when I get out of bed, I have a purpose. I have a mission, and I have that at the forefront of my mind. It allows me to get through hard times, and it allows me to be devoted, committed, and accomplish what I need to accomplish. Sometimes it becomes an obsession, and I work too hard, and I negate other parts of my life. But it's having that clear purpose is the way to go. If you can identify your purpose early on, you're going to excel in career, life, relationships, college, and you'll be really pleasant to be around too. And you'll like yourself too. So I think, more and more. So I think that's the defining factor. Yeah. Find your purpose, find your purpose. If you can find your purpose, you're way ahead of the game. No doubt. Yeah. Find your purpose, your destiny. If I could say that, find your destiny, find your purpose. How about that? Purpose. Nothing else. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much again, Joe, for your time, your knowledge, and most importantly, your shared genuine concern for students. I know that you mentioned First 100 students get in contact with you for that consultation, reminding everyone that Joe's contact information is in his little bio engagement box tool on your screen. So links to the goodstudent.org website, social channels, and LinkedIn as well. As a reminder, go ahead.
Can I add? Yeah, come out to the psychology classes. I'll put it on my website. I've been busy with the nonprofit, but I teach psychology. If you want to come out, have some psychology classes. We go out into the public and we do social psych experiments. So just look it up. But I teach at UCLA. Come out in person is awesome. We'll cause a lot of trouble, get into some trouble, and so have them reach out. This is going to be fun. All right. That's all I wanted to say. We're going to have lots and lots of fun.
I love it, Joe. Yeah. Thank you so much for being so just engaging with our audience. It's been an honor. I want to remind everyone, you will receive the recording within 1 to 2 weeks. Also, if you have 5 minutes, you're going to see a survey pop up on screen when the webinar officially ends, and we would absolutely love it if you could take the time and let us know how we did so that we can better serve you and your peers with future webinars. We hope you've gained more tools to help make your well-being a priority, and we want you to know that you are amazing, you've got this, and you have so many champions on your side rooting for you. Thank you so much again for joining us tonight. We hope to see you back for a future webinar. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.